Enough!
The officer's voice erupted, venomous and raw, seething with unmasked fury and scorn.
You're worthless here! I'll make you learn your place. I am the law!
His words tore through the stifling late afternoon heat, reverberating in the eerie hush that followed. A gut-wrenching thud shattered the silence, the sound of a body slamming onto scorching asphalt, followed by a strangled gasp, a gurgling choke, then a faint, fading breath that vanished into the void. Silence descended once more. But now it was oppressive, chilling, pierced only by distant sirens swelling with urgency, homing in on this horrific scene. What monstrous act had just unfolded, driven by such naked hatred? Who lay dying or dead, struck by a vicious insult laced with cruel intent? As the siren's wail grew from a faint cry to a deafening roar, what mute, unyielding witness held the raw truth of this nightmare? The answer rested on the chest of the man who committed this vile crime, poised to broadcast its truth to the world.
It was a blistering Saturday afternoon in suburban Fairview, a city wrestling with its tangled past and brewing unrest. The air hung heavy, thick with heat. The asphalt danced with mirage-like shimmers and tempers frayed. James Carter, a man in his mid-30s, was doing what he always did on Saturdays, heading home. A dedicated construction foreman, newlywed to his college love, he scrimped for a down payment on a modest home in a quiet corner, dreaming of a family. He listened to a baseball game on the radio, trapped in bumper-to-bumper traffic on a bustling road, weaving through commercial hubs and aging neighborhoods. He wasn't speeding. He wasn't reckless. He broke no laws, posed no threat. Just a black man in a city scarred by unequal policing, trying to make it home after a grueling week. For a fleeting moment, maybe 2 seconds, he glanced at his phone to check a traffic alert, a brief lapse in focus. That's when blazing red and blue lights flashed in his rearview mirror. A police cruiser. James's heart slammed against his chest, a familiar dread born of countless tales and personal encounters, with stops that felt more about his identity than any traffic violation. He signaled promptly, easing to the roadside as safely as he could, pulling up by a shuttered storefront on a small asphalt patch. He killed the engine, removed the keys, and placed his hands on the wheel, palms up, fully visible. He drew a deep, steadying breath. Comply. Stay calm. No sudden moves. Survive this. Officer Robert Thompson approached, a veteran with over a decade on Fairview's force. To some colleagues, he was a commanding, decisive figure. To residents of certain neighborhoods, he was notorious for his aggression, quick temper, and stops that felt more like intimidation than law enforcement. A hulking man, physically daunting, with a buzzed haircut and a perpetually scowling face. His eyes always seemed to squint with suspicion, as if the world itself were his enemy. He strode toward James's car with deliberate menace, his hand hovering near his holstered gun. This wasn't the casual saunter of a routine stop. It was the prowl of a man already convinced of trouble. James lowered his window, the suffocating heat flooding in. "Good evening, officer," he said, his voice steady, polite, disarming. "License and registration," Thompson barked, his tone harsh, cold, stripped of civility, instantly setting a hostile stage. "Yes, officer," James replied, moving slowly to retrieve his wallet from his back pocket. Then, with exaggerated care, reaching into the glove compartment for his documents. Every motion was deliberate, clear, non-threatening. He handed the papers to Thompson, holding them out. Thompson snatched them, his gaze raking over James, lingering too long before scanning the car's interior. It wasn't a search for evidence like open containers. It was a judgment, a verdict already forming. He studied the license, flicking his eyes from the photo to James's face, then lingered on the registration, though it held no complexity. He wasn't verifying facts. He was stretching the moment, flexing control, hunting for a reason to escalate beyond a simple ticket. "Why'd I pull you over?" Thompson finally demanded, his voice flat, icy. "I might have glanced at my phone for a second, officer," James admitted, opting for honesty, hoping for a quick resolution, perhaps just a warning. Thompson sneered, a sharp, derisive snort. "Distracted driving, and your inspection sticker's expired." "Expired?" James's brow furrowed, genuinely shocked. "That's not right, officer. I had it inspected last month. I've got the paperwork." He began to reach for the glove compartment again, where he kept his records. "Hands on the wheel," Thompson roared, his voice exploding with sudden ferocity. James recoiled, startled by the disproportionate outburst, yanking his hand back as if scalded, placing it firmly on the wheel, palms up. "Sorry, officer," he said, his voice now trembling. "I just wanted to show you the paperwork." "Trying to pull a fast one?" Thompson snapped, his face hardening, his stance growing rigid with aggression. "License and registration," he barked again, as if James hadn't just handed them over, as if they weren't already in his grip. "You've got them, officer," James stammered, confusion and fear mounting, gesturing slightly toward the papers in Thompson's hand. Thompson glared, his eyes narrowing to slits, jaw clenched tight. "Don't play dumb with me," he growled, his voice low but dripping with menace. "Think you can sit there, looking like that, giving me trouble?" The words hit like a fist. Looking like that. The unspoken, ugly truth hung heavy in the sweltering air. A cold dread surged through James, sinking into his core. This wasn't about traffic violations or compliance. It was about his skin, about who Thompson saw. "That's enough! You're just another goddamn N-word!" With those hateful words, spat with searing conviction, Thompson slammed James Carter's head against the truck's side. A bone-crushing thud echoed in the silence. James's pained cry pierced the air as his body crumpled, Thompson's relentless grip forcing him to the ground. Thompson followed, twisting James's arms further, pinning him face down on the searing asphalt. James struggled briefly, gasping for air, his body convulsing with pain and suffocation under Thompson's weight. A choked gasp, a gurgling sound, then shallow, ragged breaths faded fast. His struggles stopped, his body stilled, his breathing ceased. Sirens screamed closer, backup officers racing to Thompson's call about a combative suspect, unaware of the horror awaiting. Thompson, adrenaline surging, secured the cuffs on James's lifeless wrists. He stood, panting, uniform disheveled, staring down at James Carter, motionless on the ground. He adjusted his belt, then his body camera, ensuring its angle. Speaking to the lens, his voice steadied to a false calm, rough with exertion. Subject resisted, got combative, tried to assault me. Used necessary force to subdue. He omitted the slur, the head slam, framing it as justified force. He believed the camera would back his story, showing a suspect-driven struggle, matching his crafted report. He thought his hateful outburst, lost in the chaos, would be ignored, mere stress, not the focus. Patrol cars screeched in, lights blazing, flooding the lot with harsh light. Officers approached warily, hands near weapons, bracing for danger. They saw Thompson, winded, looming over James, eerily still. Cuffed. Sergeant Martinez, a veteran, knelt beside James, checking for a pulse. Breath. His eyes widened in horror. "Thompson, he's not breathing!" Panic erupted. Officers radioed for an ambulance, escalating to critical. Paramedics arrived, frantically attempting life-saving measures, but it was futile. James Carter was pronounced dead at the scene, killed by positional asphyxia and blunt trauma. A minor stop turned deadly by Thompson's prejudice-fueled rage. Per protocol, Thompson's body camera and those of responding officers were seized as evidence by Martinez. Thompson's weapon was secured, and he was isolated, placed on leave pending investigation. He gave a brief statement, claiming James resisted violently, assaulted him, necessitating force. He omitted the slur, downplayed his aggression, painting James's gasps as resistance. Confident, he believed his report, like others before, would hold, the video supporting his narrative. The investigation launched swiftly, led by internal affairs with oversight from the district attorney and state attorney general, given the civil rights stakes. The body cams were key. Reviewing Thompson's footage, investigators watched the stop unfold. James's calm compliance, his registration explanation, Thompson's unprovoked aggression, escalating commands, and brutal force. James's fear, his non-resistance, clashed with Thompson's combative claim. Then came the chilling climax. Just before James hit the ground, as Thompson's rage peaked, his face inches from James's, his voice, dripping with hatred, boomed through the camera's mic. "That's enough. You're just another goddamn N-word." The room froze, investigators and prosecutors stunned, sickened. The video continued, showing the head slam, James's collapse, his struggle for breath, his stillness. Thompson's calm, self-justifying statement followed, oblivious to the damning audio. The gap between Thompson's report and the footage was vast. His tale of a violent suspect unraveled against the video's truth. A scared man brutalized, killed after a hateful slur. That slur wasn't just anger, it was motive, exposing Thompson's lies to cover a racist killing. The investigation concluded swiftly, the findings irrefutable, centered on the footage. The DA acted fast, arresting Thompson on felony charges, second-degree murder, and hate crime-enhanced civil rights violations. His badge and gun were gone, and he faced prison in a cell James might have occupied under false charges. The footage leaked, spreading like wildfire online and on news networks. The graphic images and horrific sounds, Thompson's snarling slur followed by James's final breaths, ignited global outrage. The phrase became a rallying cry, exposing entrenched racism in policing. Protests demanding justice for James and reform surged worldwide. James Carter's name joined a tragic list of black men killed by police, a symbol of the fight for justice. The body cam, meant for routine records, captured a murder, demanding accountability. Thompson's trial gripped the nation. The prosecution's case hinged on the footage, replaying James's compliance, Thompson's aggression, the slur's hateful motive, and the lies in his report. The defense claimed the slur was a heated outburst, the force necessary for a resisting suspect. But the video showed pain, not combativeness. The jury, faced with undeniable evidence, convicted Thompson, sentencing him to decades for murder and hate crimes. For James's family, justice couldn't heal their loss. It affirmed James's life mattered, but his death was an unhealing wound. His story, etched in the body cam's lens, fueled global calls for reform, exposing systemic racism and demanding transparency. Fairview PD faced scrutiny. Investigations revealed training and bias issues. The department's community ties, already fragile, crumbled, needing years to rebuild. Thompson and James's story laid bare police brutality's reality, showing how prejudice and power turn routine stops deadly. It revealed hateful words as precursors to violence, but also the power of body cams to expose truth. Thompson's slur, meant to degrade, became his undoing, captured by his own camera. A tragic tale of loss, it underscored truth's relentless force. James Carter's life ended too soon, but his final moments, recorded with those hateful words, ensured his death drove change. It forced Fairview and the world to face ugly truths, renewing reform calls. Police brutality and racism shatter trust, But technology's unblinking eye, body cams, holds perpetrators accountable, a painful reminder of reality and evidence's power. How does the imagined video of that final moment hit you? What matters more for justice? Tech evidence or human testimony? How do we stop such abuses of power and racism from happening?